for sure, the basic ingredients involve high intelligence, a, a great deal of energy. Management work is very demanding. It requires persistence. It requires a lot of patience. It requires a kind of courage, a real intellectual honesty, a willingness, in other words, to see something difficult and have the communication skills so that you can help others to see and then to go on. So those are very personal characteristics. What people can learn is that to succeed, they are going to have to enlist the efforts of others. That whatever it is, their job is to get great people and help them to work well together in an organization as teams, and that they can't succeed without great people. I happen to be very impressed with what Jack Welch was able to do at GE. To begin with, he had a good record running the divisions that he was given responsibility for. But when he came to GE, he followed Reg Jones, and Jones was on the cover of Fortune as manager of the decade. So he was taking over an organization that was regarded as doing very, very well. And Jack saw that GE would die if it would continue along the path that it was going. Many corporations did die in the 80s, if you remember, were dismantled. And so he shifted the portfolio of the company. He sold businesses that were very vulnerable to competition from Asia. He entered growth businesses. He just destroyed the bureaucracy of the company. I mean, GE was about 400,000 when he took over. It went down, I think, to roughly 200,000, fired half the people. That's a huge economic benefit to GE, assuming that they can function well with half the number of people. It doubles the productivity in effect. And most of what left were staff and layers of middle management that got between the leadership and the operations. And this whole notion we have today that everybody embraces of a flat organization is something that comes out of that work, because we saw it could be done. And then he was able to support innovation and develop some really very fine managers to succeed him, who in their own way are also very different. So he did a remarkable job. Very different, also a very good job. I mean, Lou Gerstner and then Sam Palmisano at IBM have just transformed what was, Gerstner inherited an IBM that was really in crisis, restored it. And in a way, Palmisano had a harder job because IBM was regarded by many as fixed, if you like. And I think part of his many contributions involves saying that, look, we're not broken anymore, but there's a lot more work to do. And they've done just a dramatic job. I mean, one can go on. Lafley at Procter & Gamble did a really remarkable job in sort of restoring that company's confidence in its skills and getting it focused on growing areas, both in terms of product and geography, and driving it forward. The envisioning part is hard because sometimes it often means being critical of activity that is very successful currently. It's understanding that things just have to change. I mean, if you look at higher education today, which is where I live, it's inconceivable that we can keep accepting steadily rising costs rising higher than inflation, higher than a lot of the rest of society, that we can pay staff and faculty more, that we can have a tenured faculty with no retirement age. We're headed for a crisis. Now, there will be leaders of great institutions that will see that, and they will find ways of addressing it. It's not too hard to see it. What's hard is to see it and then think about how it might be changed. And often that means, this I mentioned, getting other extremely talented people, maybe more talented than you are, who to help you work with the problem that you've identified. The leader doesn't have to do everything. CEO doesn't have, but that for sure they have to understand what kind of a change is needed, or that, and why. And then they have to be able to assemble really good people and get them committed to working on the problem. And then they have to have the courage to keep going, because the early results are often difficult.